Hey everybody, welcome back. I just wanted to very briefly share this pork chop recipe with you. I prepare pork chops a number of different ways. I discovered this one online recently. I thought that cranberries and apples would be a good way to prepare pork chops, and sure enough, this is the first recipe that popped up, and it is definitely excellent. I like pork chops a number of different ways, like I said, and this is probably my favorite pork chop recipe. And I think the person who posted this said that they weren't really a big fan of pork chops, but she said her husband wasn't really a fan of pork chops either, but her husband was raving about these, and she said this is the only way she makes pork chops now, and they're pretty easy. Normally pork chops, if you pan sear them, they get too brown in the stovetop. You have to finish them off in the oven so they don't burn. These cook all the way in the stovetop, simmering. First you sear them and you simmer them in the liquid. The butter is kind of solidified right now. That's why the sauce doesn't really look the most attractive. It's cold. I just pulled this out of the fridge, made this last night. But what you do is you just season the pork chops with seasoned flour. Just add some salt and pepper to your flour. And the first thing you do is you take an onion, a large onion, you slice it up and cut it in half, then slice it into julienne strips. Saute it in the onion and butter. Then when the onions get done, when they're lightly browned and caramelized, you set them aside. And then in that same pan, you add a little bit of vegetable oil, and you dip the pork chops into the seasoned flour and sear the pork chops on both sides. And then once the pork chops are seared, you add back in the onions on top, you layer them on top, and then you mix, I used Granny Smith apples. You can use whatever kind of apples you want. I didn't peel them, I just cored them. Personal preference. I think it looks better, it adds more color contrast, and when the apples cook, the skin isn't really hard. So I just diced up and cored and diced up some Granny Smith apples, about 2 cups, and mixed that with, that's your sauce, a little brown sugar, a little apple juice, cinnamon, a dash of allspice. I will put this recipe below if you would like it. I'll post the recipe in the description. And then what you do is you add in, you said, you mix the apples with the brown sugar, the cinnamon, the allspice, the apple juice, and you bring it up to a boil, and then you just let it simmer for like 20 minutes to half an hour until the pork chops are done. And then the last 2 minutes, you just add in the dried cranberries and let those cook for like 2 more minutes, and you cover them while they're cooking. So that way they cook faster and creates more steam, more moisture, and they turn out more tender. So that's the recipe. I'll post the recipe below if anybody wants it. Comment, like, share, subscribe, and I'll talk to you all real soon. For right now, I'm out.